Noises off. Now, we haven't got any particular noises here, but I went to somewhere where it was very, very hot. And amazingly, they haven't rung me and told me, don't come, it's too hot. It was 90. And they opened all the doors and all the windows, which set the burglar alarm off. And the burglar alarm rang and rang and rang. And everybody was shouting to be heard over it. And I said, can't you do something? Oh, we've got to wait for the man to come and turn it off, I was told. And it rang almost all night. So that was a problem of noises off. And technology is a problem, I find. For instance, when I first started doing my talks, my eldest daughter, she brought me something from the shop. She said, Mom, she said, you have got to have a look at this film, she said. This is when it first came out. So if you're speaking to the WI, you must have watched this film. Well, we haven't got a DVD player. So I said to Pumpkin, let's go and buy a DVD player. Everybody's got one except us. So he went out and he came back with this box with this thing in it. And we set it up and we started watching it. But we thought it was a bit funny because it was very narrow like this. And we were sort of screwing our eyes up to watch it. Apparently you can stretch it to fit the screen, which we didn't know. So we watched it and we got halfway through to where they go on the plane to America. And somebody knocked on the front door. I said, Pumpkin, stop it while I go and answer the door. So he stopped it. I came back, I said, okay, Pumpkin, start it up again. He started it up again. And it started right back at the beginning again. We got almost to the same point in the film when the phone rang. I said, Pumpkin, stop the film. I'll have to go and answer the phone. You guessed it. When it started, it went back to the beginning again. It took us almost 3 months to find out what happened when they went to America. Technology, it's a nuisance. I thought I'd buy myself a dictaphone because I don't have one of these fancy phones. And in those days, people had dictaphones. I don't think you can get them anymore. So I said, I'll get a dictaphone with little tiny tape in it. I said, you can tape some of your stories from when you were a lad on one side, and I'll tape some ideas for talks for the WI on the other side, and then we can listen to each other. Oh, he said, that's a nice idea. So I did my side and he did his side. I said, let's sit and listen to the tape. So we put his tape in first. Now, I don't know if you remember, there used to be a children's television program at the weekend called Pinky and Perky. We put the tape in and pressed play. And it was Pumpkin's side. And he was talking very slowly. I said, Pumpkin, whatever have you done? You've broken it. He said, I haven't broken it. Put your side on. So we turned it over and put my side on. Oh, I said, Pumpkin, what happened? It's broken. And then my daughter came along and she said, oh, Mother, she said, it's not broken. You've got the speed wrong. It's absolutely fine. So technology is definitely a big problem. Special occasions are a problem. You have to go when people want you. You can't say, oh, I don't really want to come that night because it's my birthday, or because it's my wedding anniversary, or because it's Valentine's Day. You really have to go when people want you to go. And I think, actually, that Valentine's Day is probably the very worst day to have to go. And you just have to hope that all those eligible bachelors are all waiting for you when you get back home afterwards. Competitions. Some places you go to, particularly WIs, they love competitions. And you have to judge them. Now, I went to Brereton and I did my talk on visiting of Brereton. And they had a competition. And it was something I would not want to be without. if I was unfortunate enough to be in prison. I thought that's easy. Something I wouldn't want to be without is a picture of Pumpkin. So I thought that's really easy. And I looked around, but nobody had brought a picture of their loved one. Nobody. In fact, we had some really weird, suspect things. We had hacksaws. We had sets of files. We had all sorts of stuff like that. I thought, oh, I can't pick one of these. These are all offensive weapons. So I chose some earplugs. I thought that was the least controversial thing to choose. And the lady at the front, she said, I was going to put something in for the competition, but she said, I chickened out. I said, really? Yes, she said. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I said, go on, tell me. I said, tell me what you wouldn't want to be without. I said, let me guess. Mascara. Oh, no, she said. No, not mascara. I said, hair curling tongs. Oh, no, she said. Tenor lady incontinence pants. At Rugeley, they had a competition. I did my talk on silversmithing, and their competition was my favourite silver jug. And there were 24 entrants. 24 is a jolly good number of entrants, because normally you only get 4 or 5 people who bother. But there were 24 entrants. But the trouble was, not one of them was a silver jug, not one of them. So I thought, you're going to have to use your imagination. So I found a jug, and it was blue and curvy. So I said, this is the winner. I said, this jug would hold a lot of the amber nectar. And across its belly was written, Mackay's Scotch Whisky. I said, I can see why that would be your favourite jug. Somebody sitting behind it at the table grinned at me. She said, that belongs to one of the committee. And the lady in question, she said, my dad tried to hand down 3 things to me: spitting, swearing, and whiskey drinking, but I could never get the hang of the first 2. Branch rivalry. I mentioned already that I showed my étui at Brockton, and I went to another group and said, I call this thing the sewing kit, but Brockton tell me it's upper name's an étui. And I could see that they were a little bit put out about this. And when we had tea, they brought a tray out with a doily on it, beautiful lace doily. And it had a bone china made in Stoke bowl with real sugar lumps and sugar nips. And it was really quite smart. And the lady banged the tray down on the table in front of me, and all the sugar lumps jumped up. And she said, she said, at our branch, we may not know that the proper name for a sewing kit is an étui, but nobody serves posher tea than we do. So branch rivalry is something you have to be careful of. I went to Shrewsbury to do a talk, and the lady rang me and she said, I don't suppose you'll come as far as Shrewsbury, will you? I said, yes, I will. Well, she said, I've got a group of people who are partially sighted. Will you come and speak to them? I said, yes. She said, what talks do you do? So I said, well, I do several different talks. I said, I do a talk on silversmithing. Oh, she said, that sounds fascinating. Oh, yes, we love that. I said, well, I bring lots of items of silver and jewellery. Oh, no, she said. No, that's no good. They won't be able to see it. I said, oh, all right then. She said, do you do another talk? I said, yes, I do one on prison visiting. Oh, she said, that sounds good. I said, I bring lots of photographs and craft work and artwork that the prisoners have done. Oh, she said, that's no good. They won't be able to see it. I said, well, I do another talk called The Perils of a Public Speaker. I said, what a big box. full of stuff. Oh no, she said, that's no good. They won't be able to see it. So she said, have you got another tour? I said, well, I've got a tour. It involves a quiz. Oh, she said, a quiz is safe. We'll have a quiz. I said, it's actually a rather special quiz, the like of which you've never seen before. And she said, why? What's special about it? I said, all the clues are whistled. Whistled, she said. I said, yes. There are no spoken clues. They're all whistled. Oh, she said, that's no good. I said, pardon? Pardon? I said, there's nothing to see, just to hear. No, she said, that's no good. What about the dogs? I said, what dogs? The guide dogs, she said. I said, oh, heavens, no. I said. So I went to Shrewsbury and I changed the entire tour. So it was just an ordinary quiz with ordinary clues, which defeated the whole point of it, really, because it was a special quiz where everything was whistled. But anyway, I did an ordinary quiz. And when I got there, they were all having lunch. And she said, would you like to join us? We're having a buffet lunch. So I said, oh, thank you. So I sat down. It was a big room, probably bigger than this room. It's about 150 people. And big tables with white linen tablecloths right down to the floor. And I sat and had lunch. And she said, pardon me for commenting, she said, but you look a little bit put out. I said, well, yes, I said, you told me that I couldn't do my whistling tour because of the dogs. I said, there are no dogs. Oh, yes, she said, there are. Lift the tablecloth up. And there they were under the table, all curled up on the floor. Really. Eating and drinking is a peril. You cannot go out and speak to people if you've eaten garlic. They don't like being breathed on. You cannot eat curry. And of course, the main thing is you cannot drink anything. Oh no. Drink is a big no-no. Clear up one thing, you have a friend who's a vicar. And this vicar came from the Borders country. So he celebrated Hogmanay, he celebrated Burns Night, he celebrated New Year's Eve, he just liked celebrating. And one Sunday morning, he was due to give the sermon. And January the 1st fell on a Sunday. He turned out for the morning service and mounted the steps of the pulpit somewhat unsteadily. Addressing a curious congregation, he apologized. I'm sorry, I'm not at my best this morning. I'm not my usual self. I had rather a lot to drink last night. And with a slight slur, he continued, and I'm still under the affluence of alcohol. Too much food is obviously a problem where you go to places where they have meals, but I should say that a growing waistline is definitely a peril. And in view of the WI, not everything that they purport is made by the WI is necessarily made by the WI. And if you've seen Calendar Girls, you'll know exactly what I mean about that. But they do expect you to try a bit of everything. And if you don't try a bit of everything, they get quite hurt. Strangers in the camp. But I went to Brockton that time, big group, 60 of them. And at the back was somebody who looked a little bit out of place. So during the tea interval, I went up and said, excuse me, you don't strike me as being a typical member of the WI. And he stroked his beard and he said, no, I'm on the town council. Recognised is a peril. I went to Sneed Green in Stoke, where I was born and bred. And I said to the ladies, I said, I don't suppose any of you were here 50 years ago, because I was. Oh yes, they said, lots of us were here 50 years ago. One of them said, I remember your father. He was a deputy headmaster. I said, yes, he was. Another one said, I remember your mother. She was a college secretary. I said, yes, she was. Another one said, I remember your cat. It was a white Persian. I said, yes, it was. I said, gosh, you lot have got jolly good memories. And then I thought, I hope they don't remember one particular incident with my friend Barbara. It was a very bad influence on me. Because our neighbour, Barbara was there and I was there, and in between we had a neighbour called the Ormonds. And they had a beautiful garden, not a weed in sight, lovely flowers, lines mowed on the grass and everything. And Barbara said one day, she said, oh, they've got a nice lot of flowers next door. Let's pick some for our mums. I said, what? We can't do that. Well, she said, they've got loads. They won't miss a flower or two. So much against my better nature, I went round with her. Barbara picked a flower. I picked a flower. Barbara picked a flower. I picked a flower. And before we knew it, we picked every flower in that garden. My dad was a mild-mannered man, but I didn't sit down for nearly a week after that. And you can divulge too much information. I went up to Hildeston, did my talk on silversmithing, and afterwards we had questions from the floor. And a lady said to me, she said, what do you use to polish silver? So I said, well, there's lots and lots of things you can use. You can use proprietary brands, or you can use leather, or you can use this, that, and the other. So she said, well, what do you like to use? And I told her. And I never thought any more about it until a week later, and it was in the paper. Hopkins said, in the paper this week, news from the WIs. One of the ladies at Hildeston asked Mrs. Wheat what she used to use for polishing silver. And I told them and not thought any more about it. And there it was for all to see. Mrs. Wheat confessed that she used her husband's old white rumps. There are lots and lots of perils, some of which you've no doubt thought about, but some probably you haven't thought about. And apart from the one about the doctor prescribing Valium, everything I've told you is absolutely true. Everything, no matter how unlikely. So I think it's very, very dangerous being a public speaker. And you're jolly lucky I've been brave enough to come. And we should have our own insurance policy just for public speakers. So I hope you've enjoyed it. It was all true apart from the one about the Valium. Thank you.